In a world driven by money, everything moves fast. Deals are made in seconds. Decisions without hesitation. But behind every transaction, there is a system. Behind every system, there are rules you cannot see. Some say finance is just numbers, just logic, just profit. But not every game is as simple as it looks. And every structure creates consequences. So the question is not just what you earn, because every movement of money carries meaning, but how it is earned and what it becomes. Two worlds, two perspectives. One reality.
Hi, Assalamualaikum everyone. Today our group will present on the topic of Ibadat versus Muamalat, where the finance fits and how the transaction differ from worship. In Islam, humans' activity divided into two categories, which is Muamalat and Ibadat. Ibadat refer to the act of worship between humans and Allah. For example, fasting, prayers, zakat, and haji. The main purpose of ibadat is to strengthen the relationship with Allah. On the other hand, muamalat refer to the interaction and transaction between humans. The activities include trade, business, banking, and finance. Understanding the difference between the muamalat and ibadat is very important because the Islamic finance operates under the principle of muamalat. There are several important differences between ibadat and muamalat. First is the purpose. Ibadat focus on worship and strengthening people's relationship with Allah. Meanwhile, muamalat focus on regulating relationships and transactions between people in a fair and ethical manner. Second is the rules and flexibility. The rules of ibadat are fixed and strict. Muslims must follow specific methods in acts of worship such as prayer and fasting, and these practices cannot be freely changed. In contrast, muamalat are more flexible. In Islam, transactions are generally allowed unless there is clear evidence that clearly prohibits them. This flexibility allows financial systems and business activities to adapt through changing times while still following Sharia principles. In short, ibadah focuses on worship with fixed rules, while muamalat governs transactions with more flexibility.
And now, I will explain to you guys about where finance fit in muamalats. Finance is under the category of muamalat because it involves the transaction, agreement, and also the exchange money between people. Since the finance is related to human interaction, Islamic finance must follow the base principle of Sharia. And there are three important principles that must be avoided by Sharia. The first one is gharar. Gharar means uncertainty of excessive uncertainty in contract. The agreement must be clear and transparent, so the both party, which is customers and seller, understand the contract. And the second one is riba or we call it as interest and also unjustice profit. In Islam, they recognize, or we call it, they discourage about the transaction that have interest because it may lead to the injustice and also unfairness to the people. And the third one is maisir, or we call it as the gambling or excessive speculation. In Islam, they discourage financial activities that involve a high uncertainty and also an unfair risk. And in addition, Islamic finance encourage concepts such as justice, honesty, and also mutual benefit between all parties involved. It means that financial activities should not only focus to the profit, but also focus on fairness and ethical values. For example, in Islamic financial, they use a contract such as murabahah, mudorobah, and also musyarakah. And it may lead to the fairness and also justice for the people.
The differences between Ibadat and Muamalat has practical implication for financial product. In conventional finance, loans are usually based on interest, where borrower must repay the loans with additional charges. However, in Islamic finance, financial product must follow Sharia principle. Instead of charging interest, Islamic financial institutions are use alternative methods that comply with Islamic techniques. For example, Islamic home financing may involve a profit-based agreement or asset ownership structure instead of an interest-based loan. As a result, Islamic financial product must avoid prohibited elements such as riba, gharar, maisir. Financial institutions must also ensure that their products are halal, ethical, approved by Sharia authorities. This helps promote fairness, trust, responsibilities, and financial transactions.
After see all the aspects that they are mentioned, it is show that ibadah versus muamalat are both important in Islam, but with a different purpose. They are, for ibadah, it focuses on the act of worship with fixed rule, while muamalat deals with human interaction and daily affair, allowing flexibility as long as it remains with Sharia principle. Since finance involves transaction and economic activities, it falls under muamalat. However, this flexibility does not mean there are not limits. Islamic finance must still follow ethical guidelines and avoid prohibited elements such as riba, gharar, and maisir to ensure fairness, transparency, and justice in financial dealings. Overall, understanding ibadat and muamalat helps us see the foundation of Islamic finance and why it different from conventional system. It also shows that Islam provides a complete guidance covering both spiritual, worship, and practical aspects of life in a balanced and responsible way.